Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Lenox Justifier of Innocence, created by Zeus and Demeter to save humanity. I am here as the character Josephine, which is Lenox in human form, and with me today is Mr. Buddy the guard dog. He was sent by the ultimate creator to watch over Lenox. Now before we get started, I wanted to thank those of you who have been following along, and I hope that you guys had an amazing week. Now if you're in Tampa Bay, I hope that you guys fared well throughout the storm. And for those of you who were in the Big Bend of Florida, my best wishes for you all. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel is a fantasy justice channel where mythological gods and superheroes unite in the fight to save humanity. It is designed to allow you to listen like an audiobook, or you can watch and enjoy the images, the artwork, and the dramatizations. Though we're not actors, we do try to portray the characters in a manner that will add a little bit of comedic relief to otherwise dark subjects. Some, if not all of the topics that we covered, are sensitive in nature, and some may even trigger an emotional response, so we did want to forewarn you on that. Though we try to portray the characters in a manner that will bring light to the situations, it will sometimes have that effect. This channel piggybacks off of the book series titled Lenox Justifier of Innocence, The Beginning, the first of many in a series, so you can get that at all major booksellers. Though the majority of the stories are loosely based on real-world occurrences, the names of the people and the places in which they occurred have been changed in order to protect the identity of those involved. The characters are all fictitious, and the justice is carried out in fantasy and imagination. Now, in today's story, we're going to be going through the second half of the Disappearance in New Hampshire. We had left off where Jasmine had been taken and placed in a remote location in a shed in the perpetrator's backyard. Today we're going to get the justice, and you're going to see how we go about finding Jasmine. Now you want to make sure you stay to the end so that you find out what is coming up next on this channel and in the series, and also on Mr. Buddy's channel as to when that is going to be launched. We'll see you at the end. Enjoy the show. 7 days have passed since Jasmine's disappearance. Flyers, media conferences, local search parties, and yet nothing had turned up. But at least now the local law enforcement was taking this case seriously, no longer referring to her as a runaway. Rachel, Jasmine's best friend, felt determined. She, with a few of her friends, including Joe, convinced the school to take a more active approach in finding Jasmine. She wanted to have her home by the semi-formal. The school raised money to buy her a dress, flowers, and limousine upon her return. The vendors ended up donating everything. Positive thinking, positive manifestation, they said. It's very powerful. The story ended up making national news, captivating the hearts of Americans. With the story being aired nationwide, Leska seen the report and brought it to Josephine's attention. Josephine immediately called the New Hampshire police, and she told them of the cases that she had assisted on, but they refused her help, stating that they had it handled. Handled? She asked. She's been missing for over a week, and you have 0 leads. I wouldn't exactly call that handled, she responded. Josephine's mind went all over the place. She found this behavior suspicious. However, she did not want to jump to conclusions. Maybe they were just afraid of looking incompetent, she thought. Josephine and Amalia immediately started searching Jasmine's online presence. Amalia searched her friends, her family, the school, all of it. And then she had Leska call the parents. Being a mother herself, she understood their grief and their fear. We were able to ascertain a location, like a grid, as to where she was last seen and where her items were found. Amalia searched for any and all possible cameras in that area. They would start by trying to pinpoint an area and then go search on foot, house by house if necessary. Someone must have seen something. See if anyone has drones, doorbell cameras, check what phones had pinged in the area, all of it. Check to see anyone who has a record or has been a suspect prior. Amalia responded that she was on it. Leska, you should go check with Carlita and Nay. Maybe some of her people live in the area. True, she responded. They do live in foresty areas. I will contact her. Back in the shed, Jasmine was feeling hungry but alert. He was definitely drugging the provisions he was giving her. She suddenly got an idea where she could see the light peeking from the roof vent in the shed. She could see there were some nails there and some kind of bracket. Maybe if she could tie the rags together, she could make a rope and then rip the vent open and then attempt to climb out of it. She only weighed 80 pounds, so it should be able to hold her, she thought. She was able to climb ropes in gym class, so it was worth a try. She began tying the ropes together, hoping there was enough so that it would be long enough. The roof was pitched, but that part of it couldn't be more than 8 feet high, she thought. She can use the bucket to stand on, and if she can hook it, maybe she'll be able to open it, giving her a chance to escape. As she worked on tying the rags together, she could hear him walking outside, talking. Was he talking to someone else or himself? She listened closely. He was talking to himself, yelling at himself. What was I thinking, he said. She'll never love you. What are you going to do now? I'll make her love me. These were all phrases that Jasmine could hear him yelling at himself. She was horrified. He sounds insane. She said she then heard loud sounds banging, like he was throwing things out of rage, and then footsteps. She quickly scrambled to hide the pile of rags that she had been working on beneath the decaying boxes, along with the food that she was not eating. Then she cowered in the corner. Her eyes were large with fear as she heard the door open slowly, shaking in anticipation about what he was about to do. She looked up at him. He just stood there, not saying a word, just staring at her. She decided to ask him for water, pretending not to feel well. Are you okay? She asked him. Stunned by her showing of concern, he nodded, closed the door, and walked away. Returning only minutes later with an unopened water bottle. Jasmine felt safe to drink it, knowing it wasn't tampered with. She quickly started drinking, feeling relieved as the water moistened her mouth, her throat, quenching her thirst. She felt the cold water hit her stomach. She felt a lot better. He asked her if she was okay. She nodded and then thanked him for the water. He stood there for another awkward moment, just staring at her, before he answered, "You're welcome. I'll go get you some more later. I have to run into town," he said. Don't waste your breath screaming or trying anything. The closest neighbor is over a mile away, and no one will hear you. Jasmine, not saying a word, just nodded. As soon as she heard him pull away, she quickly went back to tying the rags together, and using the bucket, she threw the end of the rope that she made from the rags to get it to catch on the nail. The hatch had loosened, so she tried and tried. When she finally got it to snag, more sturdily. She pulled on it as hard as she could, but the nail bent. It did move the bracket some more, allowing a little bit of light to come through. She pulled harder, but that caused her to slip off the bucket, and the rope that she made from rags came loose. "Damn," she said out loud, when she heard the sound of his vehicle pulling up on the gravel. She quickly scurried to put the bucket back and hide the rags, sitting back in the corner in case he came in again. It was too risky to try while he was home, so she decided to wait until late night, when he would be sleeping, so that she could try again. The little beam of sunshine was shining on the floor, and that gave her hope. She was determined to break free. Carlita and A had reached out to her people. However, since their numbers were still so depleted, they were not in that area. They were mostly concentrated in the central states and northern Florida. But it was worth looking into. Mr. Buddy then spoke up. "I could always check with the animals. That area is full of black bear, possum, deer, raccoons, and wild turkey, I believe. Maybe some of them have seen something." "We will take all the help that we can get. Time is ticking," Josephine answered. "I know she's alive. I can feel it. I just can't locate her." Ogard looked over at Josephine, telling her that that is a skill that they can try to work on when they get back. "That would be amazing," Josephine responded. "If she can work on her location skills, they would find so many other victims in shorter amounts of time." Mr. Buddy set out to talk to the animals in the area. He went to where she had lost her phone first. Nothing was there, so then he went his way to where the backpack was located. Not having much luck until a small group of squirrels spoke up. After overhearing what he was talking about with the wild turkeys, they said they had seen a man throwing contents of a bag out, and that they remembered because they went after the bag when he left to see if there was any food. They didn't see the girl. She had stayed in the car. Mr. Buddy asked them if they could describe the man. They described him as best as they could. They also described the vehicle. They did not know the make and model, obviously, but they were able to describe it enough. Mr. Buddy thanked the squirrels, telling them that they would return with some nuts after this is all over to reward them for their great bravery. "We are happy to help," they responded. He headed back to the bed and breakfast where they were all staying, eager to share his discovery. Josephine was very pleased. Based on the description, they were able to narrow down to a vehicle being a Mustang. They said they'd seen a horse on it, and there's only a few vehicles that have horses. Amalia immediately went to work on finding a list of Mustangs registered to men between the ages of 20 and 40. We'll compare the DMV pictures to the description that the squirrels gave Mr. Buddy and start knocking on doors. We shared the information with the local police, however, we did not share how we came about obtaining that information. A full manhunt ensued. "We're coming, Jasmine. Just hold on," Josephine said to herself, imagining the fear that Jasmine must be in. Jasmine waited until 3 a.m. before she attempted to try swinging the rope again. It was dark, but with the slightly bigger opening at the roof, she was able to see just enough with the moon shining in. After attempting for what felt like an hour, she finally caught the nail. She checked to see if it was secure enough, and then she jumped, but she ended up swinging uncontrollably, hitting the side of the shed and knocking the bucket over. The noise she made was extremely loud. She immediately let go to see if she could hear any movement coming from outside, afraid that she may have woken him. 10 minutes went by, and it was still quiet. So she decided to try climbing the rope without jumping this time. Her little body felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. She was so weak from dehydration and not eating, but she pushed through her exhaustion. And then the dreaded happened. The nail snapped. She fell to the floor, feeling defeated. Tears started streaming down her face. She started kicking and screaming, having a fit. Angry, frustrated, she began to pull her own hair. When she heard something outside, she became quiet and just listened. She could hear multiple footsteps at once. Lenox and the crew had spread out in the area along with local police, going to every man's home that fit the description and that had a dark-colored Mustang. Lenox stood there, looking at the vehicle, and then up at the house. Olgard and Lexa were peering through the windows on the side. Lenox was trying to stay calm. In case it wasn't the perpetrator, she did not want to falsely accuse. So she went up and knocked on the door, and a light came on. Jasmine stood quietly in the shed, just listening, wondering if she should yell, but she was so petrified her screams would not come out. What if it was his friends, she thought? What if they are just as sick as he is? He came to the door, aggressively swinging it open. "What the?" he said as he seen Lenox standing there. "What do you want?" "What the hell do you want? Get off my property," he yelled. He tried to slam the door in her face, but Lenox pushed it back, taking it off its hinges. Taking a deep breath, he backed up in fear, tripping over himself, while saying, "Who the hell are you?" Lenox felt that it was him. "I need you to answer some questions," she said. He kept backing up, yelling that he was going to shoot her. Lenox grinned. She grabbed him, holding him up like a rag doll. "You would do no such thing." And then she dropped him. He landed on his knees, and then she took him, put his hands behind his back, and tied him with a zip tie. He started screaming, "Lawyer, lawyer, lawyer." Lenox laughed. "I am not the police. I don't have to follow those rules." His eyes grew big with fear. Olgard and Lexa ran over to the shed. Lexa said to him, "I can't see anything. Can you? On that side?" "No, it is boarded up over here too." Upon hearing their voices, Jasmine still could barely get her voice out. So she picked up the bucket and she threw it against the wall. Lexa looked over at Olgard. "Jasmine, is that you? We're here to help you." Jasmine screamed in relief, tears streaming out. "Get me out of here," she said. Lexa then ran over to the house to inform Lenox that they had found her. Lenox unleashed her punishment on the man. He immediately began to convulse, feeling Jasmine's fear and pain, but almost instantly came out of it, sobbing. "I didn't want to hurt her," he yelled. "I just wanted a wife, someone to love me." Lenox couldn't help but have some sympathy for the man. He wasn't evil, she thought. He was just sick with mental illness and disability. Olgard busted the lock off of the shed. Upon opening the door, Jasmine fell right into his arms, crying hysterically, limp with exhaustion. The police and the paramedics came shortly after, taking the man into custody. Jasmine was immediately rushed to the local hospital where she could be treated. It turned out that besides the obvious trauma, she only had minor bruising and slight dehydration and a little bit of malnutrition. Besides the first day where he struck her, the day that he took her, she was extremely fortunate, for he did not touch her. Things could have been so much worse. Amalia immediately contacted her family to give them the great news. Lenox, upon review of this man's history, went to law enforcement to plead for his case. Though what he did was extremely wrong, and he certainly deserves punishment, this man needs medical and psychiatric help. See, he had slipped through the cracks. He was supposed to be receiving ongoing care and visits from social workers, but due to lack of funding and manpower, he never got the help that he needed, and that rendered him a threat to society. Jasmine returned home after a couple of days of treatment, where she was greeted by family, friends, and teachers. Rachel gave her a huge hug, relieved to see her best friend, and then presented her with the most beautiful dress for the semi-formal. I knew we would have you home by then, so I made sure we had everything ready for you. Jasmine felt blessed and grateful to be home, safe, amongst all of those who loved her. So that is going to conclude this story. Now, though in this story we used fantasy justice, in the true story, the character Jasmine is a real girl from New Hampshire that did go missing. Fortunately, she was able to escape the perpetrator, and how she did it was she made him see her as a human being, so she befriended him. And though he kept her locked up, he did not hurt her, and she was able to eventually escape, and she made her way back to her family. So it did end up with a happy ending, where, you know, Jasmine of course has needed some treatment for the trauma that she endured, and being kidnapped is, even though she wasn't severely hurt physically, it's a very traumatic thing to go through. So we are happy that she was able to get help and that she was able to break free. You don't hear of these happy endings as much as we should, but we're happy that happened. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, I do write stories like I did this one for patrons. This was a patron story, so if you've suffered any injustice and you would like some fantasy justice written for you, I would be more than happy to do that. You just let me know what happened. I will research the details and I will come up with a story just for you. Now, this week we have the reemergence of Putuntero and Olba Casanama coming up, so you're going to see that in a battle. So that'll be fun and a way to something to look forward to. And also, Mr. Buddy's channel is going to be launching this week coming up, so you want to stay tuned for that. I will be announcing what day it's going to come out. I'll announce it on this channel, so make sure you click the notifications and you'll get, either going to do a short, or I will just put a post so you know when that will be coming out. And that show is for the kiddos, titled Mr. Buddy and Friends. So this cute little guy's got his own spin-off, so the kiddos can enjoy that. Now this channel is only for adults, but Mr. Buddy and Friends is for the kids. So hopefully you guys all enjoy that, and hopefully you enjoyed his premiere. So if you haven't had a chance to see that, it is the video that I posted prior to this one, so go ahead and check that out. And just wanted to say that I hope you guys have an amazing Labor Day weekend. It's the official end of summer, though here in Florida, our summer doesn't really end until, I would say, December. So for those of you up north, it's your official end of summer. So have fun, stay safe, please take care of your children, and as always, God bless.